Hello there, welcome back to Autocar and welcome to the inside of a Rolls-Royce Black Badge Spectre. In a moment I'll tell you what it's like to drive, but first here are the technical and financial details of the new Spectre.
The Black Badge Spectre is for those who want their Rolls-Royce to be more subversive, maybe more vibrant or dark than the standard car. So with dark chrome and new wheels and even a new violet paint job redolent of 80s and 90s discos, it looks more sinister than the regular Spectre. It's also the most powerful Rolls-Royce ever made, with 650 horsepower if you push the right button on the steering wheel. Engage launch control, which they call spirited mode, and you'll even get up to 793 pounds-feet of torque. That makes this car good for 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds. The battery is 102 kilowatt hours, by the way, and the range a bit over 300 miles, the same as the regular Spectre. Not that that is a huge issue for most owners, because they tend to have three-phase charging at home. Typically only need to charge about 7 times a year because they have an average of 13 other cars. Electrification suits Rolls-Royce rather well. Rolls will never use the word sporty, but suspension has been revised to improve body control and reduce pitch and roll. But Chris Brownridge, the CEO, says this car remains a true Rolls-Royce, which means super, luxury and comfort. So let's see.
So you join me inside this four-seater. It is, in terms of its opulence, as per normal Spectre. It's got things like some carbon fibre trim. I mean, you don't have to have carbon fibre trim, but it's not carbon in the way that people usually do carbon, where they want it to feel a bit lighter and a bit racier and a bit sportier. It kind of does feel a bit sportier, but you know, this is a big car. The extra carbon is not going to make a difference to the lightness. What it is going to make a difference to is to the ambience, to make it feel a bit more subversive, they say, a bit more, just broadens it out a bit from the super straightforward luxury to allow something that is a bit darker. And I don't mean darker in terms of colour. I think when Rolls-Royce talks about darker, it means darker in terms of feeling and mood. But any Rolls-Royce really is, they're big cars, they can be a bit ostentatious in feel, and they suit a fairly flamboyant owner. They're not, you know, these are not cars for shrinking violets. And there are, I guess, different shades of shrinking violet, if you like. You know, some people want even more flamboyance and even more expression from a Rolls-Royce, but they may also want extra dynamism. Rolls-Royce is pretty careful not to use the word sporty, because this is not a sporty car, but it does have things like a variation of launch control. I mean, it's basically launch control under another name, and things that ramp up not just the extra power that this car has, but also the willingness to use it. So I have on the steering wheel here, and actually the steering wheel has a 3mm thicker rim than a standard Spectre to feel a bit more grippy, a bit more, I'm going to say it because they won't, a bit more sporty. It's called Infinity Mode, and that gives it the option, gives the driver the option of using the extra poke, which is otherwise not necessarily available to them. So let me just get onto a straight bit of road, and I'll do that. When you're in Infinity Mode, if you come to a standstill, put your foot on the brake. It's very easy to use. You put your foot on the throttle, then the steering wheel shakes a bit. It says sprint active. I come off the throttle and away it goes, and that's pretty much up to the speed limit. It is a fast car, but what it isn't is instantly responsive in the manner of a Porsche Taycan or the fast Teslas. It's not a thump. It still builds power, not dissimilarly to the way that the V12 does, and that's a deliberate decision on Rolls-Royce's part. It doesn't think that an instantaneous whip-crack throttle response is appropriate for this kind of car. I'm kind of inclined to agree with it. If I put my foot down, it is fast. It is really fast, but there's a sort of feeling of a build-up of torque as you come off the throttle. If you were in a turbo, you would call it turbo lag. In this, it's just deliberately meant to soften the blow, because it's still, as they say, a Rolls-Royce, and that means it still has to ride. So this is, I've got the noises turned off, and this is a noisy road surface, but it's a very quiet car. I mean, I don't think there are many cars on sale, if any, that are quieter than this car at a cruise. And whatever they've done with the suspension dynamics, I think if you come to this car and you think doesn't ride well enough, I would be a bit surprised, because it feels to me still incredibly absorbent. It rolls with great comfort. You occasionally hear bumps and thumps and things like that, but you hear them more than you feel them. It is, in effect, an extremely absorbent, comfortable cosseting car. The rest of the interior matches that, really. You know, these seats they're quite flat, but they are quite soft. If anything, because you're sitting on top of a battery pack, you kind of already feel that you're sitting quite high. But if you really want to see a good, commanding vision of the road ahead, you kind of have to boost your seat up again so that you can see across the top of the bonnet, because this is a big car. It's well over 5 metres long. It's about 2 metres wide. It's kind of got the same footprint on the road as a typical European double cab pickup truck. If you're in the States, that's a smaller pickup truck for you, but for us in Europe, that's quite a big car. It takes up a lot of space on the road. But when you want it to be less traditional Rolls-Royce and a bit more dynamic, there are things you can do. It's got a noise button which allows it to make, I don't know how well you'll hear this. I don't know what you describe that noise as. It's a bit sort of jet engine-y meets a large industrial turbine. Just as I went over there, I don't know if you saw me bump up and down, there's just a bump. I wonder if a standard Spectre would take a more comfortable bump over it, but keep its oscillations going for a bit longer. This settles relatively quickly after a quick initial bump. If I go into infinity mode, it also weightens the steering slightly, but this is still a relatively light steering system. I enjoy it, I like it. I may even prefer it in the lighter phase. One of the things about Rolls-Royces is you wouldn't call them a driver's car in the same vein as you would call a Porsche 911 GT3 RS a driver's car, but I do get real pleasure from driving them. And there's something about, well, sometimes they say that the loudest noise in the car will be the chauffeur's hands or the wheel. There's something nice to be said about sort of threading the wheel between your hands and really enjoying that precision of the steering, even though it's very light, even though the wheel is very big, even though the car is very big and the suspension is quite soft. There is a precision to driving one that I really enjoy about them. It is, even phantom owners, Rolls-Royce say, drive their cars as often as they get driven in them. And I think that's probably doubly true of Spectre owners. I'm going to turn the sound off, actually. I don't really need it. I think you'd play with it a bit, but I would otherwise leave it off. Also, Rolls-Royce is one of the few cars that I have, Ineos Grenadier, I have a real enjoyment of the sound system. I always think, cars are not the best environment to listen to music in, but because of the low ambient background noise and the quality of the audio, Rolls-Royces are one of the few cars, I think, that are really decent place to listen. So this is a car that is, I think, as comfortable as a Rolls-Royce ought to be. It doesn't give any of its wafty character away. It does add a little bit of dynamism. There's a roundabout here. Let's give it a bung in. Doesn't roll a great deal. You can just feel the stability control just kicking in as it just sort of edges up to understeer, but it'll move ever so slightly at both ends as it does that. It's as capable as I think you could want it. It's as fast as I think you could want it. There is something about battery electric vehicles in some cars where you think actually today's battery technology is a limiting factor of what the car can be. And actually a next generation of battery, maybe a solid state battery that Nissan says it will introduce in 2028 in its cars. It says it will have double the energy density, which means you can either have twice the range for the same battery size, or you can halve the battery size and have the same range, and that it can charge 3 times quicker than today. That will make a huge difference to those cars. Whether something like that would make a huge difference to this car, I think is a different matter, because range isn't a bother, because the owners of these cars have got 15 different cars anyway. So if they think they're going to go somewhere out of range, they'll take something else. They can all charge at at home, one of their homes, so charging speed is not a bother for them. This car's already 5.5 metres long and 2.x tonnes, so actually if you save a couple of 100 kilos of batteries, what does it matter? It is effectively totally appropriate for this car already. It's an appropriate technology to put in this car. It works in this car in the same way that a large capacity V12 works in this car. And if you were making a set of family hatchbacks and you could only use V12s, it would be a real bother for you. But actually, if you're only making Rolls-Royces and you can only use V12s, happy days. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And it's a bit like that with this battery. Yes, batteries are big, heavy. They don't charge as quickly as some people would like to. In this car, it doesn't matter. It's an appropriate technology. It's an appropriate level of technology. It works really well in the standard Spectre. It works really well in this Black Badge. Which would you choose between those two is entirely a personal thing. It depends what you want your car to do. If you want a little bit of extra edge to it, the Black Badge is the one. If you don't, the Spectre, standard Spectre, probably has an extra degree of comfort, but there's very little in it that means you'd go for that instead. It's not like reviewing city cars, right, where everything is measured in a few pounds and a few millimetres and a few bits of spec here and there or whatever, and that's, you know, all they're all just the same. If you want a Black Badge one, buy a Black Badge one. If you want a standard one, buy a standard one. It's largely as simple as that. It is deep into the realms of luxury, so deep into the realms of luxury that it's almost beyond normal car industry chat. Simple as. If you like it, buy one. If you don't, don't. And what I would say about today's Rolls-Royces is I think they are, and this is a company that had some iffy periods over the years. It didn't always make much money. It didn't always make outstanding vehicles, or made very special vehicles, but they weren't necessarily brilliant. I think today's Rolls-Royces are absolutely brand appropriate and technically, in terms of finish, in terms of engineering, in terms of luxury feel, they are absolutely what this car company should be doing. So thank you for joining me. We're here every week at YouTube. We're also over at autocar.co.uk, and you can find Autocar magazine on the newsstands. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time.